humanity is nothing more than incredibly ambitious dust. We have spent lifetimes inventing this grand, self-important status of cosmic explorers, but the laws of physics are not impressed. For decades, we have been force-fed a cheap, watered-down substitute for reality. The intoxicating lie that reaching the stars is merely a question of time and engineering. It is a complete and utter fairy tale. If you take our most precious dreams and run them through Richard Feynman's cold clinical reality test, they do not just fail, they turn to ash. We are not standing at the beginning of a great journey. We are staring at a brick wall. We are at a total dead end. There are 5 fundamental, unbreakable barriers that make interstellar contact not just difficult, but absolutely impossible. Forget everything you thought you knew about the future. It is time to face the truth. Welcome to the grim reality of causal isolation. The first deadbolt on our cosmic cell door is the lowercase letter c, the speed of light. Wipe the floor with your primitive ideas of breaking records or pushing the envelope. In this vast, indifferent machinery we call the universe, the lowercase letter c is not about movement or how hard you can redline a futuristic warp drive. It is the fundamental conversion coefficient between space and time. It is the hardwired gear that dictates how fast reality is actually allowed to happen. Think of it as the ultimate ping rate of existence. It is the absolute maximum speed at which one event can possibly give birth to another. It is the cosmic latency that keeps existence from collapsing into a singular point of total nonsense. If you attempt to overclock this limit, you are not just traveling faster. You are systematically dismantling the very foundation of logic. You stumble headlong into the nightmare of the tachyon anti-telephone paradox. In this scenario, the timeline breaks. You receive a reply to a message before you have even conceived the thought to send it. When information outruns light, the arrow of time snaps. Cause and effect start to cannibalize one another, shredding the fabric of the world into a corrupted, unreadable file. You aren't just breaking a law of physics. You are attempting to delete the source code of the universe. But nature is a brutal administrator. It protects its structural integrity with a grip of cold, unyielding iron. It does not negotiate, and it does not offer parole. This isn't just a barrier for your imaginary starships. It is a universal quarantine. Because of this limit, every civilization, every spark of intelligence, is condemned to live and die within its own isolated causal bubble. We are shouting into a void that refuses to let our voices carry, locked forever in a prison where the walls are made of light itself. Total, absolute isolation is the default state of the cosmos, and the lowercase letter c is the warden who ensures we never leave. But let us say you are a rebel. You are the type of person who looks at the fundamental structural limits of reality and decides they are merely suggestions meant for lesser minds. You decide to ignore the cold, mathematical logic of the warden and simply floor the accelerator. You want to step on the gas until the constellations bleed into streaks of neon white. But this is the moment when you face the second barrier, your own crushing, inevitable inertia. Physics has a brutal way of punishing human vanity. As you push your vessel closer and closer to the speed of light, you do not just gain velocity, you gain mass. Your ship becomes an insatiable black hole of momentum, demanding more and more power just to nudge the needle a fraction of a percent further. Here is the shock fact that should stop your heart. To accelerate just one single solitary cold grain of sand all the way to the limit of the speed of light would require more energy than currently exists in the entire observable universe. This is not a matter of a high price tag or an inefficient engine. This is literal energy suicide. But let us pretend you managed to cheat the cosmic ledger. You are finally at cruising speed. Congratulations, you have just turned a supposed vacuum into a celestial meat grinder. We were all taught that deep space is an empty void, but that is the deadliest lie of all. At near light speeds, the thin, invisible haze of the interstellar medium, every microscopic dust particle and every lone, wandering atom of hydrogen stops being a ghost and starts acting like a detonating bomb hitting your hull. You are no longer sailing through a peaceful ocean. You are screaming across a sheet of glowing radioactive sandpaper that is actively trying to flay the very atoms from your ship. To protect a biological body from this abrasive hell, you would need shielding so thick and so unimaginably massive that not even the concentrated raw force of the Big Bang itself could nudge your vessel a single inch from its docking bay. You are paralyzed by the very physics you tried to outrun. Fine, we concede the physical battle. We admit that the stars are forever out of reach for our fragile carbon-based frames. But the dreamer in your head immediately pivots to a fallback plan. If we cannot go to them, why not just call? Why not bridge the void with the speed of light and the power of radio? This is where Richard Feynman drops the hammer with a truth that is even more isolating than the distance itself. The universe operates under a relentless mathematical tyranny known as the inverse square law, mathematically expressed as 1 over r squared. This is not just a gentle fading of a signal over a long distance. It is a catastrophic, exponential annihilation of information. Imagine trying to light a single match in the middle of a supernova. Every time you double the distance from your transmitter, your signal strength is not merely halved, it is sliced into quarters. By the time your desperate broadcast reaches even the closest neighboring solar system, it has been diluted into a ghost of a ghost. To ensure your interstellar hello is actually distinguishable from the deafening, chaotic roar of cosmic background radiation, you would need an energy budget that defies all biological sanity. You would need to harness the total raw power output of an entire star just to keep your message from being swallowed by the void. This is not a technical flaw in our satellites or a lack of sensitivity in our dishes. It is a fundamental tax imposed by the very geometry of three-dimensional space. Galactic contact is not being blocked by some mysterious force or an alien conspiracy of silence. It is simply energetically bankrupt. We are not participants in a grand cosmic symphony. We are a solitary, muffled whisper lost in the epicenter of a screaming, multi-billion-year-old thunderstorm of white noise. The Great Silence is not a puzzle. It is the inevitable result of a reality that makes the cost of a single conversation higher than the value of an entire world. Science fiction junkies always love to bring up wormholes and quantum entanglement as if they were cosmic get-out-of-jail-free cards. They are beautiful, elaborate bedtime stories designed to help us sleep better in the dark. No, the reality of quantum mechanics is utterly heartless. We are bound by the no communication theorem, a mathematical law that strictly forbids using quantum entanglement to transmit information faster than the speed of light. It is a locked safe in a vacuum. You can observe the state of a linked particle on the other side of the galaxy, but you have zero power to choose that state or influence it. You can see the result, but you cannot write the message. The moment you try to force your will upon the system to send a bit of data, the correlation snaps. And what about those desperate hopes of sending single photons across the abyss? At these staggering interstellar scales, those particles are essentially dead on arrival. We are talking about the nightmare of quantum decoherence. Every stray microscopic grain of cosmic dust and every subtle tug of gravity acts like a blunt instrument, shifting phases and systematically erasing every scrap of encoded data. By the time that fragile quantum greeting traverses the void, it has been scrubbed of all meaning by the very environment it traveled through. To have even the slightest prayer of catching such a battered, flickering signal, you would need to construct a telescope with a diameter of more than 100 kilometers. Picture that, a single lens or array the size of a sprawling metropolis, floating in the cold silence of space. And even if you achieved that impossible feat of engineering, you wouldn't be decoding a greeting from a distant civilization. You would be staring at a screen filled with nothing but chaotic static, raw, indifferent white noise. The quantum loophole is not a bridge to the stars. It is a cruel mirage in a desert that has no end. Finally, we arrive at the most savage and cold-blooded barrier of them all: time. The galaxy operates on a timeline of billions of years, a scale so incomprehensibly vast that it makes the entirety of human history look like a microscopic glitch in the system. In this grand, indifferent theater, technological civilizations are not permanent fixtures. They are nothing more than tiny, frantic sparks in a suffocating, infinite darkness. These sparks flare up and vanish in the blink of a cosmic eye, lasting perhaps a mere couple of thousand years before they are snuffed out by war, exhaustion, or simple entropy. The mathematical probability that two such fleeting sparks would flicker into existence at the exact same moment, in the exact same corner of this massive forest, is effectively zero. It is a statistical ghost town. But the cruelty of physics goes even deeper. Because of the finite nature of the lowercase letter c, we are cursed to always look into the deep, unreachable past. Space is not a window into the present. It is a mirror reflecting what used to be. Every time we point our dishes at a distant star, we are not searching for life. We are performing an archaeological dig. If we were to catch a signal this very second, we would not be greeting a new neighbor. We would be listening to the desperate, lonely voice of a dead man. The civilization that screamed that hello across the void almost certainly crumbled into cold ash and gray dust millions of years ago. Their cities are silent, their oceans are dry, and their legacy is nothing but a handful of photons traveling through a vacuum. When we look up at the night sky, we are not peering into a living, breathing cosmos full of potential allies. We are staring into a sprawling, silent galactic necropolis. We are tourists in a graveyard, listening to the fading echoes of ghosts who never even knew we existed. The universe is not hiding from us. It is simply already over for everyone else. Welcome to the finality of the Great Silence. The laws of physics are absolutely indifferent to our grand, ego-driven fantasies about galactic empires and star-spanning conquests. They do not care about our cinematic aspirations or our desperate need to feel significant on a cosmic scale. The staggering absence of extraterrestrial visitors is not some profound, unsolvable mystery or a deliberate cosmic game of hide-and-seek. It is the cold, natural byproduct of the most ruthless laws in existence. The laws of energy, distance, and the unrelenting passage of time. The universe is not a barren, empty wasteland, but it has been meticulously architected in a way that makes physical movement between the stars an absolute impossibility for fragile biological organisms. We are living in a state of permanent, high-security quarantine, locked away by the very fundamental constants that allow reality to function. But here is the twist that the dreamers always miss. This very isolation is what makes our existence incomprehensibly valuable. We are not a small part of a larger community. We are the entire show. When you finally strip away the rose-tinted glasses of science fiction and stop clinging to the hollow promises of a futuristic utopia among the stars, you can finally take a deep, existential breath. You might even find yourself leaning back and offering a quiet, knowing smile to the indifferent void. You can look at the data, see the walls of the cage for what they truly are, and realize that the prison is actually a sanctuary. You look straight into the camera and whisper, "Oh, so that is how it actually works." This realization isn't a death sentence. It is a moment of total, crystalline clarity. We are alone. We are the only voice in a stadium filled with billion-year-old silence. This pale blue dot is not a cradle we are meant to outgrow. It is our one and only home. Now we know the truth and we are finally free.